What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to be more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interests.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi, Katie.
What is up?
I am ready for this episode today.
Yeah, you want to talk about Russia?
Big one. Let's talk about Russia.
Russia stuff. Disclaimer. There's a lot of Russia shit. There's a lot of BS out there. Everything in this episode is factual, and it is all also within the public domain, meaning that anybody can look it up and find the source. It's an ongoing investigation, so gaps will definitely continue to be filled in as we go, but everything that we talk about today is true and also in the public domain, meaning anybody can find it, which also means that none of the stuff we're talking about is conspiracy theories. Everything that we're going to mention today, it sounds scary and shitty, but it's all true. And the more context you have for stuff like that, the better you can interpret information that you get moving forward. So we want to give you everything that you need to absorb Russia information moving forward, knowing what's true that you've heard and what's not true and stuff like that. So to give you kind of a baseline, I'm going to talk about some stuff that's true of the Rust investigations, and then Morgan is going to go into the specifics of what's going on with Michael Flynn and Robert Mueller and Bill Barr and Donald Trump in the news lately. So one thing that we have to know about is something called normalcy bias, which is one thing that I hear actually a lot, which is people who say, I mean, come on, if it was that bad, wouldn't somebody do something? Wouldn't somebody intervene? And at this point, there's not that many people left to intervene. The last non-Trump appointee just resigned a few weeks ago. So, who's going to be the check on his power now? There's no real, obvious answers left.
Yeah, they have fired or just chased out all of the people who are there to check them. All of the people who are there to be nonpartisan.
Yeah. And he's surrounded by yes men now, basically.
Yeah. That is dangerous.
Yeah. And then something that goes along with that is something called the myth of American exceptionalism, which is people's belief that it can't happen here. It is happening here. So we can go ahead and dispel with the myth of American exceptionalism. There's really nothing that separates our country from every other country. So we're susceptible, vulnerable to authoritarianism, just like anywhere else. Maybe even more so because we have this myth of American exceptionalism where we think stuff like that can't happen to us.
Yeah, I have never seen a country more vulnerable to just believing every propaganda message shoved down their throats than this country.
Yeah. A useful idiot is something that Donald Trump is. A lot of people, a lot of our media is honestly useful idiots. We'll talk about that a little bit, but it's a term that is used in disinformation and propaganda, and it's people that are assisting you with your endeavors without even realizing it. So I don't know, that sounds like Donald Trump to me.
Oh, yeah.
WikiLeaks is kind of hard to explain.
Oh, God.
It would be good. Okay, so the idea of WikiLeaks is that people can leak important secret government information to WikiLeaks. They'll publish it, and then the person who leaked it doesn't get in trouble. In theory, it's good to have transparency like that, except they're very clearly not. They're not unbiased. They're very. They worked hand in hand with the Russians in 2016 to target Hillary Clinton's campaign.
It's good in theory, but then in practice, it's only a notch above the National Enquirer and all the other trash that Breitbart puts out.
And they release stuff on a timeline that's scheduled to do the most damage possible and stuff. It's bad news. It's people being manipulated. It's us being manipulated. The IRA is the Internet Research Agency, which is an arm within the Russia's government. It's basically a troll farm. So when you talk about people on Twitter or Facebook or wherever, trolls from Russia, they're probably working for the Internet Research Agency, and they do quite a bit of targeting social media and misinformation. I hope I don't have to say this, but I'm gonna just to make it very clear. Russia is not an ally of ours. They're an adversary. The Soviet Union fell apart the year I was born, 1991, and the Russian government, it was really just like a reorganizing of the KGB. The Russian government is really, really corrupt. And when we talk about Russians, we're not talking about the Russian people. We like the Russian people. They're just like us. Yes. But yeah, leaders in Russia are bad. They're manipulative. They're just bad news. And Ukraine is an ally of ours. Ukraine is getting bullied by Russia. Like Crimea used to belong to Ukraine. Russia annexed it, meaning they stole it without having any kind of authority to do that. So when you hear about annexing Crimea, that's Russia stealing territory from Ukraine for no reason, and we just let them do it. Even though Ukraine is an ally of ours and Russia is not, Donald Trump is, friends with Putin because he sees him, or he wants to be more like him. Which brings us to
Putin. Russia and Ukraine are not the same country.
No.
They are separate countries. I dated somebody like 2 years ago who didn't know that. So apparently this is something that we need to clarify to the world. I just date dummies. I don't know.
Ukraine is trying really hard to be its own independent democracy. It's just like a little baby that Russia is bullying and like making it hard for them to do that. But the Ukrainian people are really cool too, of course. So Putin is a murderous dictator. He is a super smart narcissist. He used to be a member of the KGB, and while he was in the KGB, he was skilled in manipulating people from other countries. And one thing that even I was surprised to learn, I mean, you and me pay attention to this stuff like crazy, but these plans were set in motion like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Paul Manafort and Oleg Deripaska met. So Paul Manafort is an American, but he's essentially a foreign agent at this point, just like Michael Flynn is. Met with Oleg Deripaska, who I can't remember if he's Russian or Ukrainian. There are like Russian and Ukrainian oligarchs who work together a lot, but really like they're their own separate class. We have American oligarchs too, and we'll talk about them a little bit. Actually, well, I'll just talk about them now, whatever. Some of our oligarchs are good. Like Bill Gates is good. Jeff Bezos, not so much. Like he very clearly exploits the labor of his Amazon employees to accumulate that kind of wealth. So we have our own oligarchs. Like we're basically an oligarchy. Russia is worse. Like Morgan and I have not been murdered for this show yet. So like it's better to live here for sure. Also, if we go missing, probably Putin or Simeon Mogilevich, please.
Yeah.
Those are the two people we would like
look
you
into
to
them. Neither of us has exes that crazy.
Yeah, no, they're not murderers.
Not on that level.
Shitty, but not
definitely
murderers.
Russia.
Yeah. So his main goal. So Paul Manafort, Oleg Deripaska met 15 years ago to come up with a plan to undermine democracy worldwide. Like we're not even the point of these attacks. The same thing is happening in the UK and stuff. And his main goal is to prove that democracy doesn't work anywhere. He just wants to destabilize it worldwide. And he didn't get punished for doing it in 2016, so there's no reason for it not to happen again in 2020. And it is happening. Like, it's
absolutely.
We don't know if it will work, but we didn't punish any of the things that he tried to do. So there's no reason for him not to do them again. So that's a bummer. But
according to like Susan Collins, he's learned his lesson.
Right.
But
how?
He hasn't.
What kind of consequence has he faced that would make him learn his lesson? None,
ever.
We impeached him and we told him it's okay.
People. Yeah.
So there's that. So some timeline stuff, and then I will hand it over to Morgan. In June 2005, Paul Manafort proposed a plan to Deripaska under which they would influence news coverage, business dealings, and politics in the former Soviet Union, Europe, and the United States to benefit President Putin's government. And then they signed a $10 million contract and maintained a business relationship for 4 more years. So
it so much
sketchy stuff.
God.
And it's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
That's exactly influence news coverage, business dealings, and politics in the former Soviet Union, Europe, and the United States. It's perfectly summed up, tied a little bow on it. That's exactly. And that was happening when we were in junior high. Yep.
Back in my days of K-Swiss.
Oh, hell yeah.
Still in a training bra, probably.
The dream.
Life was so much easier when I knew nothing about politics.
Yeah. So in 2012, Obama signed the Magnitsky Act punishing Russia for human rights violations. And this is kind of where all of the shady stuff with Michael Flynn gets started. Mm-hmm. He actually worked for Obama in the Obama administration for a while because he's a retired Army lieutenant. He was appointed by Barack Obama to run the Defense Intelligence Agency in 2004. And then I think there was one more thing. You'll probably mention it later, but basically he was forced to leave the Obama administration. Why was he forced to leave?
I know that it was I don't know that anything was explicitly stated, but I think it was just questionable behavior, questionable ethics.
It was questionable enough that Obama told Trump about it and was like, hey, better not hire this guy. He's pretty shady. And they were like, oh, no, we know he's shady. That's our favorite thing about him. We're absolutely going to hire him.
Yeah. I don't know. It probably somewhere is in the public domain specifically what, but yeah, it was just this guy's not great. You shouldn't trust this guy.
Not above board.
Nope, not this one. And then Trump was like, perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So all of that is true about Russia. There's a coordinated attack to undermine democracy. In 2016, there was a coordinated attack to boost up Donald Trump and take down Hillary Clinton. So discord among Americans, it's working.
Yep. Worked great.
Yep. So, and this is just maybe a 10th of the... I don't know. We could have a ton of episodes about this. I tried to just drill it down to the important stuff, but
I should have looked. I'm sure there's a whole podcast about this.
Yeah, probably.
And I bet those people don't even use their real names.
Probably. Good for them. Okay, so do you want to tell me what's up with Michael Flynn?
Yeah, Michael Flynn. You've probably heard his name said a lot lately in the news. Yeah, like Katie said, he was appointed by Barack Obama in 2012 to run the Defense Intelligence Agency, then pushed out. His illegal activity mostly goes back to a series of phone calls with a Russian ambassador named Sergei Kislyak. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool name. I like some of these Russian names. Anyway, so Flynn worked to actively undermine Obama's newly announced sanctions against Russia for meddling in the 2016 election. So Obama was like, "Ooh, that's not cool. You can't meddle in elections." And then Flynn was like, "Yes, they can." And so in these phone calls, Flynn, he also wanted to undermine the official United States positions towards a UN resolution about Israel, which just also keeps on coming up. And this is all according, again, to court filings. This is all public domain. So Flynn lied to his fellow Trump officials, including the Vice President Pence, saying, no, he had not discussed the sanctions with any Russian ambassadors. And then in the days after Trump was inaugurated, the FBI questioned Flynn about the calls, and he told several distinct lies, all also public domain. And we know that these are for sure lies because we know for sure what he said and what he discussed with the Russian ambassadors because the calls were intercepted by U.S. intelligence.
Nice.
Yeah. So the Justice Department informed the White House that Flynn was dishonest with them, which is problematic in itself because this was the man selected by Donald Trump to be in charge of national security.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't like, hey, Donald Trump, your cook lied to you and said that this was veal, but it's actually beef. Like that's a lie that would probably piss somebody off, but like this is the man in charge of national security.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this is such a big deal, and like you really want like a good honest person in that position. And also this is a problem because Mike Pence and other White House officials had regurgitated the lies Flynn told them. So when reporters questioned Mike Pence about these phone calls that Michael Flynn had with the Russian ambassador Kislyak, Mike Pence was like, nope, this is what happened. This is what went down. They didn't talk about it, all of these things. And
Michael
so then
Flynn,
that means
he's also
Mike Pence also lied.
Yeah. Well, and Mike Flynn is like a noted conspiracy theorist. Like the Obama team used to refer to them as like Flynn facts because like he just was like not tethered by reality. So one, you probably shouldn't be listening to him, but yeah.
Yep, exactly. And like because Mike Pence regurgitated this false information regarding Russia, now like a bunch of officials, including the vice president of the United States within the Trump White House, are vulnerable to Russian blackmail. You do not want your head of national security and your vice president and however many other people in the White House to be vulnerable to Russian blackmail.
Yeah.
Holy
Although,
shit.
like, not counterpoint, but people ask a lot, like, why are the why are the Republicans in Congress going along with this stuff? A lot of it is probably because the Russians do have blackmail on them because they hacked the DNC and the DCCC. I meant to look this up and I did not, but they either also hacked the Republican National Convention and have that information, just haven't released it. Because there have been no like RNC hacks released to WikiLeaks or anything like that, or like they could at any point. Like they're just better at this shit than we are. Like, so
yeah, they absolutely have any information. Yeah.
A lot of Republicans in Congress get Russian money usually filtered through the NRA, so they probably like truly do have compromise on them. That like if they were to come out against Donald Trump or whatever, it's like, oh, well, we know you've been cheating on your wife. Oh, well, we know that you received like $1.5 million from the NRA last year. What turns out that was actually Russian money. Like you're in trouble now. Like, yeah, there's a lot of shady shit going on. And it like, we'll probably find out later that is what's going on. Cause it just doesn't make sense for no Republican to have the balls to stand up to Donald Trump, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly it. Like the things that they have over all of these people in Congress is, oh my God, like, can you even imagine it? And it might destroy like so many aspects of this nation if all that information was even released. I mean, the money laundering and the scandals and So anyway, because of all of this, Donald Trump fired Michael Flynn in February 2017. So yeah, that's just 3 weeks after Inauguration Day.
Nice.
And yeah, Trump said at the time that because Flynn lied to Pence and the FBI that he had to go. So Trump was like, yeah, fired. Right. So Robert Mueller, like we heard people talk about Robert Mueller all the time too. We know that he did that like whole document thing that ended up being kind of like
a letdown for sure.
Anyway, while all of this was going down, Mueller was getting started with his infamous Russia investigation. And that spring, the special counsel, Robert Mueller, was appointed to take over. So he disclosed Michael Flynn's pro-Turkey lobbying in 2016 as part of his examination of Flynn's conduct, or should we say misconduct. And keep in mind, pro-Turkey lobbying, that is bad. Like that's bad. Erdogan might not be quite as bad as somebody like Putin, but he's not a good second guy. Also, put them on the list of people that might try to kill us.
Mhm.
So in December of that year of 2017, there was a plea agreement between Flynn and Robert Mueller. So Flynn agreed to help the investigation and did eventually provide evidence against Donald Trump, all related to this whole Russia election crap. And then Mueller let Flynn plead guilty in return to just one count of lying to the FBI. And he agreed not to bring charges on any of the other lies or on any of the illegal lobbying because he did this guilty plea. So basically, just like any other situation, if you are a rich white male with money and privilege and power, you can reach a plea agreement by just pleading guilty to one small thing, even though you did 6 other much worse, also illegal things.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and that's just how it works.
the only time usually when you would see something like this is if they were gonna nab some higher up people later.
Like Donald Trump.
Right. So Flynn is up there, like him folded we don't know what information he gave to Flynn, but when somebody's committed as many crimes as Flynn has and he was only getting punished for lying to the FBI, which was like the least of those things, usually that's a reward for giving them information that's good enough that it's going to cause them to be able to arrest or indict or whatever people higher up than him. So like Trump, Pence, probably like Kushner, Ivanka, I don't know. Pompeo, maybe. Who knows?
Most likely this information either was then squashed by the Trump administration because it was like
nobody ever got arrested.
So scandalous. Or they decided that it was a national security threat to have this information get public because it was just that bad. We won't. Who knows?
Well, yeah. Like,
I mean, again, that part's speculation, but like,
yeah, it's just
why wasn't
it doesn't
anybody
make
held
sense.
accountable for
Exactly.
this?
It doesn't make sense that he was given such a sweetheart deal and then nothing ever came of it. Like something happened between, I don't know. But so people thought that like the Mueller report was going to be like the end all be all. It was going to bring him down. That's some more of that normalcy bias of being like, somebody's going to save us. Well, Robert Mueller didn't save us. Nobody's going to save us. Like we all have to do it because like we can't count on, there's nobody really left to do anything anymore. Like it's been scary, but it's scary.
Anthony Fauci cannot save you from this, people. Yeah. So anyway, even though he got such a sweet deal on all of this, last June, Michael Flynn fired his lawyers and then hired a team of rabid right-wingers. Wow, try saying that 3 times fast. Rabid right-wingers. And they started accusing the FBI of bias and misconduct towards Flynn. And then Flynn asked to withdraw his guilty plea. So he got this real sweet deal, and then he's like, hey, by the way, I would like to withdraw that guilty plea now. Thank you. And he waited until last June after like the Mueller report was, released and failed and all of that. Anyway, so to be clear,
I wrote that. I'll read that if you want.
Okay, yeah.
I just like I feel like people don't really understand like what the Mueller report said or didn't say or whatever, but just to be like super clear about it, it didn't exonerate Trump in any way at all. As soon as it came out, before anybody else was allowed to read it, Bill Barr got to read it and summarized the 400 pages of the Mueller report into 4 very misleading pages and showed it to Congress. When Trump learned about the Mueller probe, he literally said out loud, "Oh my God, this is the end of my presidency. I'm fucked." And he was wrong, but like, it makes me feel joy that he felt that way at any point. But yeah, so there were many people within the Trump campaign who were super receptive to Russian help, but were too stupid to pull it off. And then there were also people within the Trump campaign that were like Trump ordered to do illegal, sketchy stuff, and they were smart enough to not follow through with it. So he wanted to commit. Basically, the Mueller report didn't find any like specific collusion. It's also part of the reason that they use the word collusion, because there's no like legal definition of collusion, I think, or something like that. But basically, like, he wanted to do it. They were either like too smart to realize that they couldn't do it, or too stupid to pull off the actual crimes. But just to be like, anyone with integrity is like long gone, but it is like very not normal to accept help from a hostile foreign power. And I can't believe I have to say that, but every single intelligence agency in the United States agrees on that. You know, like the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, they have all agreed that Russia conspired to assist in a lot of targeted different ways in the U.S. elections. It wasn't just trolls online. It wasn't just, it's a concerted effort.
Than that.
Yeah.
And like Katie said, like, this goes back a lot of years. Like, this wasn't just like, as soon a couple months after Trump announced his presidency, Putin gave him a call and was like, "Hey, bro, I can help you out." This was not like that. This was years in the making. Like, this is like one of those things that, like, in hindsight, someday we'll be like, boy, it would have been great if someone had nipped that in the bud back in 2002. But guess what? That's not reality. So here we are.
Yeah, and it's happening in other countries too. We're just part of the puzzle.
Exactly. Yep. So, like, why is all of this Michael Flynn stuff in the news again? Well, so Attorney General Bill Barr, we hate him, asked a separate team of federal prosecutors to review the Michael Flynn case files. This outside team provided Flynn's lawyers with some documents a month ago, and Flynn's team posted these files on the public docket. They already existed on the public docket. I don't know, but they really were like, look what we did. It was already there, whatever. Trump and all of his conservative buddies claimed that Flynn was exonerated by these documents that had already existed in the public, and that the charges should now be dropped, even though Flynn previously admitted his own guilt under oath. So, Trump said he was considering a presidential pardon, and he might bring Flynn back to the administration. Never mind the fact that he's the one who fired him for lying in the first place.
Yeah, I think that is the goal. I think they want him back in the administration.
Yeah, that's absolutely what they want. Because they're like, boy, you are so crooked and awful. Like, we really need you on our team.
Yeah. He seems like a liability. I don't know why they'd want him back.
Right? But you would think. It's probably because he knows stuff and he wants to be back on the team, and is like, get me back on the team or I'll tell people the stuff I know. Again, that part is speculation, but why else would you want somebody? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the Justice Department renounced years of legal arguments with this, and they contradicted all of their past positions by declaring that they are dropping the case against Michael Flynn. The court papers were signed by one of Barr's top allies, and none of the career prosecutors on the case, they wouldn't touch it. And so everyone that was bringing justified accusations that Bill Barr is twisting the law to do Trump's bidding. So in essence, the U.S. Attorney General is acting as the president's personal lawyer.
Yeah, which this is not the first time that's happened. It's just another really good example of it.
Yep.
I mean, Bill Barr was corrupt. Like, ask your parents about Iran-Contra. Like, I cannot explain Iran-Contra to you. It has something to do with, drug cartels in Nicaragua. I don't know. It's an interesting story. But he was, the cleanup guy for Iran-Contra, which was a huge scandal. No, we've known who Bill Barr is. He should absolutely not have any power within our government. It's just... it's hard to get rid of evil people.
Yeah, it is. And Bill Barr said, this request to drop the charges was made for legal and not political reasons. Nobody with half of a brain or an actual sense of patriotism believes that.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, Bill Barr.
Yeah, go away, Bill Barr.
If you need a refresher about him, we do have an episode about him and authoritarianism from a couple months ago.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, like we said, none of this makes any sense. A plea deal like that should yield indictments from bigger players later on in the investigation, which never happened. He pled guilty to lying to the FBI. It is unprecedented for him not to get jail time. Plus, reminder, he's guilty of a shit ton more than just lying to the FBI. Federal Judge Sullivan said about him, arguably, you sold your country out. I am not hiding my disdain and my disgust. Like, he's a traitor. He sold his country out. We're not fans of Michael Flynn here. But yeah, that's just why it's especially crazy that he's not going to get any time at all, or that he's going to get pardoned.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so, like, what's next for this whole situation is that Emmett Sullivan, who's a federal judge, he's currently in charge right now. Technically, he has to officially grant the Justice Department's request to drop the charges before this whole case against Michael Flynn is over. But it's unlikely he's going to reject the request, but he has announced that he's appointed a former mafia prosecutor and retired federal judge named John Gleason to look at the case, and some outside parties will also be allowed to weigh in. So a group of former Watergate prosecutors want to argue that, like, they want to argue the case against Flynn, but also Donald Trump is president and could pardon Flynn at any time. So there's that. And a presidential pardon, that part is not unprecedented, nor is lying to the FBI. People have been doing that in government for a long time. But also, like, this just blatant anti-patriot, let's put America's national security at risk so we can have complete weasels in our important, like, cabinet positions. That's not cool. That's not okay. We can't have this unless we, like, want the USSR to get back together and for the United States to be a part of it. Worst case scenario, but also I'm in a dark mood today. It's rain. Yeah. So, like, this is important because aside from the obvious issues of national security and just complete subversion of justice, like, this is an unprecedented move by Bill Barr to attempt to drop this case. And it's just a sign of how much closer the U.S. is moving to authoritarianism. Keep in mind that Barr's reason for wanting to drop the case is that there was no, quote, legitimate reason for the FBI to look into Flynn in the first place. And therefore, him lying about this shady behavior didn't count as illegal.
This is the dumbest argument because it is, and you can understand how dumb it is because it's like if you... if, like, somebody was like, hey, I think your boyfriend might be cheating on you. And you were like, I'm going to go check his text messages. And there were, like, nudes in there from another chick. And this is like him being like, well, you shouldn't have been looking at my text messages. And it's like, hey, buddy, that's not the problem right now. Like, the problem, who the fuck is that? Like, it's just, it's the stupidest argument.
Yeah. It's a terrible argument.
It's still a crime. It's still a bad thing, no matter, like, how we found out about it.
Is that, like, kind of what this whole, like, Obamagate thing is? It says them being like, no, Obama was setting him up in the first place. This whole investigation was set up by Obama. Obamagate is not going to happen. Stop trying to make it happen.
We're smarter than that.
Yeah. It's like, literally, Flynn's attorney said that he was, quote, set up, and that the investigators were trying to, quote, lay a perjury trap.
Oh my
God.
God.
Guess what? It's really hard to perjure yourself if you just stick to the truth.
Yeah.
If you're not lying, you can't be committing
perjury.
Perjure
yourself.
You can't perjure yourself if you're being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not great.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So 15 Republican attorneys general. Attorneys general or attorney general? Attorney general.
I thought you were right the first time.
Attorneys general.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's a weird
calls to say.
Anyway. They support the Department of Justice decision to drop the case, or the charges against Flynn, of course.
Cool.
When you have, like, Russian involvement, again, a hostile foreign power, and this type of partisan cover-up at the same time, like, that's a huge red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, like, the lying to the FBI is the only thing he even pled guilty to. Nothing else, which means that, like, more and / worse, like, could be brought to light given, like, an actual investigation by Sullivan. Keep in mind also, like, Flynn met with Kislyak in Moscow in 2013. Like, that's when he was still with the Obama administration. And then in 2015, after he'd been ousted, he traveled to Moscow and paid $45,000 to attend a gala hosted by the Russian state-sponsored media RT.
No, he was paid $45,000.
He
I
was
think
paid $45,000.
Yeah.
I thought he paid $45,000. Oh shit, that's even worse.
I think he was
$45,000
paid
was
$45,000 to speak at that gala.
Oh, okay.
I think. Either way, you know what? It's shady as fuck.
$45,000 was exchanged.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and Flynn attended a gala hosted by RT. Like, they are bad. They are bad. They are Russian state-sponsored propaganda.
Mhm.
Also, he sat with Putin. Like,
Yep.
he sat at the table with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate that.
This is
whole
just
thing.
one blip, one shady ass blip on a huge timeline of crimes.
Yeah.
Like, and you can find it. I mean, like, there's a Wikipedia page dedicated just to the timeline of this shit, but and it'll take you like a whole day to get through. Like, if you, I don't know why this is just like the most
There's
useful
so
like analogy
much.
for me, but like, if you put something like that together for like your boyfriend and his ex that he's still like too friendly with, and you were like, oh my God, there's just too many examples of like connections and like communications and da 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 da. Like, you wouldn't wait to be like, find out, to walk in on them banging. Like, you'd be like, you know what, this is sketch, I'm out of here.
Like, if your boyfriend and if like your boyfriend had a female best friend and you were like, I get weird vibes, like there's something happening here.
Mhm.
No, babe, you're being crazy. You're being crazy. We're just friends.
Yeah.
And we're just friends. We had dinner together, but we're just friends.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, they got married. You would be like, I think I was right this whole time.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just, it's too much to be a coincidence. And I mean, it's even worse than that too. It's like, then you found evidence that they were like involved, and they still were like, okay, we were, but it's not a big deal. Like, they went from like denying it to saying, okay, it happened, but it's not a big deal. That's like what Trump does all the time when he gets caught.
Yep. And then never held accountable.
Yes.
Cool.
So Obama last week, for the first time, I think, actually spoke candidly in public to like 3,000 of some Obama campaign alumni about how dangerous this Michael Flynn pardon is. It's like that's the reason that we wanted to bring up. We thought it would be relevant to talk about the Russia stuff right now. There's a lot more to it, but he said basically that this Michael Flynn pardon is really dangerous. And how quickly authoritarianism can spread once stuff like this is happening, to which, like, good job, but also we have an episode from like months ago about how we've reached like 8 out of the 10 markers of authoritarianism. So it's just weird to hear him talking now about like the risk that
we love you, but we beat you to it.
Well, yeah, and like it's also like those guys, all those people, any of the 3,000 people in the Obama campaign, like I hope they fucking realize it already too. Like that better not have been news to any of them. Like he could have been saying like that's a sentence that was true in 2016, that we're in a dangerous place, you know, like absolutely. I don't know. It's just it makes me worried. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, is this the first time Barack Obama is understanding this? Or is this just the first time that he's talking? I mean, I'm sure it's not the first time that he's understanding it. I don't know. I think it should have been way more public, way sooner. So, yeah. So, and then the last thing that I want to talk about before we get into it, and feel free to add whatever you have to add, but the last thing that I wanted to bring up is that, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, there's no reason for them to not do their exact playbook from 2016 again, because they were not punished for it. And there were attempts to punish them. Those Russian sanctions were attempts on the Obama administration. So like the election was in November. Trump didn't enter office until January 21st. So the Obama administration knew about the Russian meddling. They imposed sanctions on Russia. That's actually part of the reason that Michael Flynn got in trouble in the first place. He was like, he said like out loud, like yelled across a park. I mean, not really, but he was like, hey, Russia, don't worry about those sanctions. We'll be president soon. No worries. And then like, that's when the Trump administration had to be like, hey man, you can't be that obvious. Like, we love Russians too, but like you got to be on the DL about it. You can't just
Yeah.
like be yelling about it all the time. But
We at least have to try to pretend for the first term of this presidency.
yeah. So they're going to try to do to Biden what he did to Hillary. So their goals are to widen the divide between Democrats and Republicans to sow discord, inspire fear or other emotions-based feelings or whatever.
Yeah, and they're absolutely going to use China because everybody's mad
Yeah.
at China because of the coronavirus.
Yeah. So there's oh man, what is her name? Olga. Do you know who I'm talking about? They talk about her on Gaslit Nation a lot. It starts with an L.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's a really, really great journalist and she knows a ton about Russia, but she has found basically more specific information about what they're going to try to do, but it has to, I mean, we already kind of have seen it. So they're going to try and target like Biden, the Obama administration, Hunter Biden for what was going on with Burisma, that company in Ukraine. So we can talk about that too. I mean, it's a little bit of BS. Like it would be like Kevin's dad getting him a job on a board. Like he wouldn't have gotten that job if it wasn't for his dad, but also like that's where the corruption ends. And there's all kinds of that level of corruption in government. Like there was it's the normal amount of shitty that Hunter was given a place on that board. Whereas like Donald Trump's kids are doing like actual shitty stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just when you hear stuff about the Obama administration coming up and Hunter Biden, stuff that Joe Biden did, just trying to like discredit him and stuff like that, like really look and make sure that you trust the source that it's coming from.
Reflecting is shocking. Like, so they're going to try to say that like, well, Biden is soft on China. Biden's in bed with China. Okay, for one, Trump is best friends with Vladimir Putin and Russia, and for two, Ivanka got a bunch of Chinese like trademarks and patents and all of those types of things. So like, let's not. And like, well, blah blah blah. He got Hunter the seat on this board in Ukraine, and you're like, yeah, and you literally appointed your daughter and your son-in-law as like your senior White House advisors. Like, what?
I mean, we don't like it. We're not in favor of getting your children jobs on boards in other countries. Right. Like, we wish shady shit like that didn't happen, but that's not disqualifying to Joe Biden for the presidency. It's just like a regular scandal. Just like, you know what, as long as we're talking about it, just like Benghazi was a regular scandal. Hillary Clinton testified for like 11 hours before Congress about that. No indictments, no arrests, no investigations. 14 at least new investigations have been sparked from this Mueller investigation. So that it's just, I don't really know like what else to say to get across to people that like this Russia stuff is pervasive. It is comprehensive. They're smart. They know what they're doing and they have a plan. Yeah. So, and there are definitely like, it's possible that if Hillary Clinton wasn't a woman, that plan wouldn't have worked as well. Like it's possible that the patriarchy will save us because we don't hate Joe Biden as much as we hated Hillary Clinton. Who it's hard to say, but yeah, just so expect that is coming and that that's I don't know. Also expect that the Trumps, have we ever said this like explicitly? They want Ivanka to be the first female president.
Oh yeah, they absolutely do. That's the plan.
Yeah. Yep. So that's what to expect. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that's pretty much it in terms of what to expect.
Okay.
On a lighter note, coronavirus update. It is Wednesday, May 20th, as of this recording, and we have not yet reached 100,000 deaths in America. We're only at 95,000.
That is a huge number. I can't really wrap my head around it.
It's very sad. like so many people, like so many of my friends have lost their grandparents in this past like month because it's hit Iowa particularly like late comparatively, and it's just like got me feeling real sad.
Yeah, I bet.
Like sorry. So many of my friends' grandparents are dying right now.
I'm sorry.
I know that like I'm not the only one experiencing that, so
yeah.
Hugs to all.
Yeah. So what can we do this week to make America better?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah,
well,
Abby,
like
what's
one
up?
thing, yeah, Abby's excited about it. She's like, "Hey, I'm gonna make America bark again." Like one thing that's really easy, like it's Wednesday when we're recording this. 2 days ago, our interview with Kate Kelly came out, and so you remember when she mentioned like getting support for your senators to sign Joint Resolution 6, especially if they're Republican senators.
I do remember.
Yes, you can text ResistBot about that. So we have like a little thing where you just got to text 50409, text sign SIGN, and then Z, like Z, C, like cat, YYJK to 50409 to support Senate Joint Resolution 6.
We will put that in the bio of this, thing, the bio of this episode. There we go. But basically we did it for you. So she talked about contacting your senator, especially if you have a Republican senator, asking them to support this resolution that gets rid of the deadline on their ERA. Is that what this is? That's what this is for, right?
Yeah,
okay, so this doesn't have anything to do with Michael Flynn, actually, but it doesn't matter. It has.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm confused myself. So this, I mean, it's just we want, the Equal Rights Amendment to pass. So if you have a Republican senator, text sign ZCYYJK to 50409. Morgan is the one who started it because she has Republican senators. I do not.
Like I know it sucks that like I just suggested something that doesn't impact like the Michael Flynn situation.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
But it's like this reminder that like this is why we have to get Trump out, because he got to appoint Michael Flynn.
Yeah.
And he got to appoint some really shitty Supreme Court justices. Like who you vote for as president does matter because they get to appoint people, and people like Trump are going to appoint really shitty people.
Yeah. I mean, we elected Brian Kemp. Well, not we, but Georgians elected Brian Kemp, and he got to nominate Kelly Loeffler. She's terrible.
Yep.
Who is the governor in Arizona? Shit, I can't. Thank you. Okay, they elected Ducey, and then John McCain died, and he got to appoint Martha McSally, and she's awful. Actually, she's doing really bad in the polls right now. If you need like a little pick-me-up. People do not like Martha McSally. All right, what else? I officially joined the Democratic Socialists of America because I realized that I was taking all these other trainings, and then I was like, wait a minute, they probably have trainings, and they do.
Yeah.
I think the one that we were trying to sign up for is a 3-part series, and I think we actually missed the first 2, so we might have to wait. Damn it. We might have to wait until next time, but that's okay. So they have like a 3-part, I think it's an organizing webinar series, maybe?
Yeah.
And then they have some other stuff too. It's $45 a year, like to be a member a year. Not that you don't have to be a member, I don't think, to take those trainings, but just pointing it out there. But just like go check out the Democratic Socialists of America and see if there's any trainings that you'd like to take, or follow them on social media and stuff like that. I just they really do like represent my views a lot better than any other group, and I don't really know why I hadn't been like seeking out trainings from them before, but I'm excited to start. Yeah.
And then I am probably going to donate again to Generation Ratify because I'm still riding the high from the episode where we interviewed Kate Kelly. And then I'm also probably going to subscribe to my local newspaper. So like a while ago, the podcast Hidden Brain, it's by NPR, but they had an episode called Starving the Watchdog, and it was about the importance of journalism and journalists. I want to have a whole episode on this at some point, but And they recently re-released it with some updates because of like COVID and stuff. Like small newspapers in particular are very affected, and just economically, it is very, very bad for a community of any size to lose its local paper. Like journalism is so important on so many levels. So yeah, I think I'm going to subscribe to my local paper here. And
I don't
yeah,
think we
what do you think
have
about
one.
that?
Or I think it's free. I don't think, I don't know. I'll look into it. I'll report back next week.
Okay.
Well, both of us really there's another trivia night for Sister District politician Robin Vining on May 30th. So that's a Saturday. I think it's at 6:30 p.m. So I just started a team today. Anybody is welcome to join our team. It was very fun last time. And they also said they were going to do 4 rounds instead of 5, so it didn't take so long, and then also give us more time in between to talk to our groups, which like those are the 2 things I probably would have said too, which is nice. But yeah, if anybody wants to join our team, all you have to do is put my name in. It's Katie McHugh. Aw, Peaches. Morgan's cat has joined the chat. My last name is McHugh, for anybody who cares. MC_HUGH. If you want to be on our trivia team, we lost by a lot. So
we were in like the middle. We were
in the middle. I thought we were gonna do better. We had one baby boomer on our team. I thought we were gonna, and he answered probably like half of our questions.
Yeah, we would have died without.
We would have struggled without Jay. Shout out to Jay. So yeah, that's on May 30th. If anybody wants to join, you can register. I would just Google Sister District Chicago. There is, for everybody who participates, there is a suggested donation of $10 or more to her campaign. So I did that today too, so I didn't have to remember for later. So I'm excited about that. And then what else? What are you doing? What else is happening?
Well, hold on.
Peaches is being bad.
Peaches took my earbuds. She was like, "Ooh, I love to chew on cords." Sorry. So I don't know. Just like still doing my self-care. This is not like a political thing, but like I can't wait for sports and everything to come back, and everything. Like this week is supposed to be the state track meet in Iowa. So it's supposed to be the high school state track meet, and it's super close to where I live, so I was looking forward to going. I was going to get to be part of the ceremony there too, so I was like, oh. And obviously, like I am an adult who had my chance to compete state track meet, and
won every single race.
Well, and so it's a bummer, right? Like, oh, my Hall of Fame induction's been postponed until next year's state meet. But I'm just so sad for the high schoolers who aren't gonna get that magical experience this year, and especially the seniors who this was their last chance to possibly, maybe for the first time compete or win for the first time or the last time. And it's just like, oh God, I just want to give every single one of them a hug and want to give my 17-year-old self a hug, all those things. So it just makes me think how much I can't wait for sports to come back. And when they do, I want to volunteer coach, either with an after school program like Girls on the Run or with an actual team. There's plenty of high schools around where I live that I'm sure would have me. So I know I just miss that. I got to record a little 2-minute. Here's a mental skills training tip for all of you athletes this week, and I was just like, oh, I love you all.
Wait, for this. Who?
For a high school. The coach texted me and was like, hey, cute. Could you record a little thing so I can send it to my athletes? And I'm like, sure. And I loved it. And
that's sweet.
I want to get out to be able to volunteer my time with kids again.
Yeah. I don't know if I do. Did I tell you? I emailed the swim coach. So back like pre-COVID, I emailed him and I was like, hey, I would coach over the summers if you need somebody to, especially like during the mornings. And he like just never emailed me back. I was like, all right, bye. We actually swam against each other in college. I mean, he's a boy, but
Fun.
yeah.
Are you writing more letters, I'm assuming?
I picked up 200. So Indivisible Chicago. Basically, I've just been joining as many groups as I can to get their newsletters to see what kind of like volunteer events they're offering, which honestly I don't hate. But Indivisible Chicago, or maybe it might be Indivisible Evanston, they have their shit together. I went to one of their meetings yesterday. Indivisible Evanston really has their shit together. Oh, Hazel's dreaming. She's twitching.
Oh, baby kitten.
Sorry. So anyway, I picked up 200 postcards to write to Wisconsin. So they have a goal of sending 2 million postcards to Wisconsin. They're partnering. You can either send them to Wisconsin or Michigan, and I picked Wisconsin. So I'm about 50 in. They're actually a lot harder to write than the Vote Forward letters because there's more like handwriting. So I'm focusing on those. But I will get back to the letters. I actually got to my 300th letter this week. And when you get to 300, you have to email Swing Left and prove that you're a person. Isn't that funny?
That's so funny.
Yeah. So you have to get like approved to be able to write more letters. So as soon as I'm done with my postcards, I'll do.
I'm a human.
Yes. But yeah, my Swing Left group is up to 485 letters total, which I guess technically means that I wrote most of those. But
no, Katie,
but
you're
that's
winning.
Okay.
You're winning.
I'm winning. So yeah, we're gonna generate a report monthly and keep track and make sure that we're staying on target to get to our 5,000. But yeah, that's been fun. And then a thing I think you should do that took me a really long time to do is the Taylor Swift documentary on Netflix. It's actually excellent.
Yes, it is on my list to do. I'm just like can't stop putting on Gilmore Girls.
I get it.
I didn't watch it until I was an adult and I was in grad school for the first time, and it was just my background noise.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm rewatching it as an adultier adult, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this show is so like it's so calming and relaxing, and
yeah.
Also like I am a lot like Lorelai Gilmore.
Oh really? I've never really watched I've seen episodes, but never a whole season.
Yeah. If you watch a couple episodes, you'll be like, I see
see it.
Yep.
That's funny.
Yeah. Also, just the early 2000s fashions. Oh, love.
No.
It's such a disaster in the best way. But yes. Yeah, I plan on watching that documentary at some point.
Yeah, it was really good. She does a really good job of explaining fascism, actually, in a way that I'm not really good at doing. So yeah, what else are you? Oh, you wanted to talk about Unlocking Us? Is that true?
Okay, so if you are like just wanting to feel good about yourself, maybe cry, but like not have to watch TV, you want to listen to something while you're working or like walking or whatever, Unlocking Us is Brene Brown's podcast. Oh my gosh. I've read some of her books, and like Brene Brown is awesome. Like highly recommend reading her books, but her podcast is phenomenal. I loved it. And like some of them, she has interviews with some very cool people. Alicia Keys was one of the recent ones that I listened to that was just so awesome. I just like Alicia Keys is so freaking cool.
Nice.
And yeah, and Brene Brown is the coolest.
Yeah.
It is highly recommend, like just to feel like good and like she's wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah. And like after I started listening to it, then I heard Georgia Hardstark on My Favorite Murder talk about her, like she was listening to it, and I was like, oh my gosh, listen to the same podcast.
Of course.
This podcaster.
Of course.
But also like Brene Brown is the queen, so of course. Yeah, anyway.
All right. I'm going to give you a squeaky update, a foster cat update.
Yes.
If anybody is not interested in this, the episode is over. You are free to leave. You're excused. But All right. Squeaky has I'm gonna start dropping some hard truths about Squeaky because she used to be a huge bitch. She is less of a bitch now. I was trying not to talk shit about her because I didn't want to I wasn't sure if she was gonna come out of it. She mostly has. All right. So it rained really hard here and our basement flooded a little bit, and she hates change. She hates it. And so she won't go in the basement anymore, but she won't go anywhere upstairs except for really the kitchen. And the kitchen in our house is how you get from the inside to the outside, from the up, like the top floor to the ground floor, and from the ground floor to the basement. So it's where you get anywhere in our house. And it's where we used to affectionately refer to her as our basement possum because she hisses a lot and is not nice, really. So we just have this possum in our kitchen now. So there's 3 people and 2 other pets living here, and the 2 other pets are terrified of her. So we can't get upstairs or downstairs or inside or outside the house without finagling some sort of cage system for Squeaky so that she doesn't attack. Anyway, she's nice most of the time now. She does every once in a while bat at you and draw blood, but we're working on it. But she's remembering how to be a house cat. She at least lives out of the dungeon now.
She has been through so much. You've done so well with her.
Yeah, and she's commandeered our kitchen. But it's okay. We call her
the kitchen possum.
We call her kitchen princess now because she's so high maintenance. She's had 5 different names, but yeah, so she's doing good. We have a positive-ish foster update. Do you have any feel good?
Nope, anything? Don't think so. Just all the photos that I've been getting from my sisters with my little nibblings are so freaking cute. I want to put them all over our Instagram, but I won't, so I just put them on mine.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, almost as cute as cats.
Yeah. Almost. All right, we will talk to you guys next week, and in the meantime, stay sexy.
And God bless Sarah Kenzier.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and a review. It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better.
And make sure you're following along on Instagram and Twitter at FYMI Pod.
Shout out to Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, Hope Dye for the podcast art, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.